We're born for this time. It is a time for transformation. If you understand, it's different between education and transformation. And one of the things I'm upset about, as you know, I've always said, why doesn't our schools teach us about money? And as you know, the rich don't pay taxes anyway. But my poor dad's telling you should pay your taxes, has taught us to work for fake money. Go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, get out of debt, and invest in the stock market. The World Cup at Twickenham in 2015. But I'm going to just say that Brian Rose is a real human being. He and I come from the same bolt of cloth. I think we were talking before we went on air. We were born for this time. It is a time for transformation. If you understand, it's different between education and transformation. And one of the things I'm upset about, as you know, I've always said, why doesn't our schools teach us about money? And we're talking about your last prime minister, the shortest prime minister in history. I thought about her because this is one of my books here, Who Stole My Pensions? And when she tried to, I don't know what the heck she did, but she wasn't there long enough to even read my book. But our money system is so screwed up, and we still don't teach anything about money. I can't believe it. And you and I have been saying this for how many years now? You've been to Arizona, I've been to London with you. But this, Brian, we better start transforming, not just getting educated.
Yeah, I agree. And this does feel like our time. I mean, you know, when everything got crazy in 2020, it was probably one of the best years we've ever had here because, you know, Robert, that didn't faze us at all. We didn't blink an eye. I didn't miss a day of work. We were in here broadcasting, putting out the truth, going head to head against these trillion-dollar tech companies, not letting them censor us, putting out these messages. And you know, Robert, when I tell my students in my academy, when I quote your lines into them, when I say, you know, poor people work for money and rich people make money work for them, when I talk about how your story when you raised your hand and said, when are you going to teach us about money in the education system? And they said, no. Everybody just, they get it. They know you're right. And this is the time, like you said, to transform. People have to completely rethink what they thought they knew about money. And that's why it's so great to have people like you, Robert. And everyone's looking to people like you in these markets because you've been talking about this for decades.
And you know, Brian, this is 2023. Rich Dad Poor Dad is still #1 after 25 years. And I flunked out of school because I can't write. Can you imagine that? And all I do is write about. So I kept asking the question. I said, why don't they teach us about money? What are they teaching us today? You know, about wokeism and Black Lives Matter and gender bending. What about money? You know, I just can't believe our education system has gone so corrupt. And today, the #1 debt for most young people are student loans. And they come out of school and they really can't even find a job that pays them that much. I mean, it makes ROI, return on investment. A college education doesn't make sense. There's no ROI on it. So when you think about that, it's our school system that's criminal too.
Yeah, you're always on the front lines really pointing that out. I know making a lot of teachers' unions uncomfortable, but I'm glad you do. And you sent me that message earlier and I saw you, I mean, #1 ranked after 25 years as a book with you just asking some simple questions. You know, I tell the story when I went and saw you in Phoenix about 5 or 6 years ago and we sat down for that epic interview, Robert, that's probably been watched now 40, 50 million times. I've seen it translated in 12, 13 different languages. There's one, I told you one, that we're both speaking Russian in that interview. And that was epic, but I reread Rich Dad Poor Dad on the flight out to Phoenix. And man, I mean, by 15 pages in, there's just something about it that feels life transforming, as if what you're saying is, it's almost biblical, Robert, because it's the human DNA. You're explaining how we create value and how we perceive value. And it's never been taught to us before, and you do it through this, you know, allegory of these two dads. It's a beautiful piece of work and still super relevant, and they're still not teaching about money. So I guess we're gonna have to, right?
Well, I think, like, I watch you doing your running and all this stuff. It inspires me because I'm lazy as heck. But you and I are about transformation. There's a difference between a rich person and a poor person. Giving them money is not going to do it. I can give a poor person all the money in the world, and they'll still be poor. You give a crook all the money in the world, they'll still be a crook. And today we have the Biden crime family in place here. I can't believe these guys. And they got top secret documents lying all over the place. Americans are shooting everybody all over the place. I'm watching, you and I are watching the world come apart. And if we don't go through transformation, no more just go to school and get a job. We've got to go beyond that, Brian. And so I think that's what you and I, as now the senior citizens of the Zoom world, that's what we're pushing for. You cannot just give somebody money or send them to school. They've got to transform.
Well, Robert, you famously said the difference between a rich person and a poor person is their relationship with fear. And maybe that has something to do with that transformation, because if you're not willing to transform, which means you have to go into a fear, if you really want to transform, is that what that comes down to? Is it about going into those fears and pushing yourself to become someone new?
Well, it kind of goes back to education and transformation. My benefit was I didn't go to a traditional school. I got nominations to Naval Academy and Merchant Marine Academy in New York. I went to the Merchant Marine Academy because we're the highest paid graduates in the world. This is in 1965. So 1965, I check in at the Merchant Marine Academy, Kings Point, New York. And my economics teacher asked me to read this book here. I'm going, this is economics? And my economics teacher was a West Point graduate, U.S. Military Academy graduate, and he flew B-17s out of England into Germany.
Ooh.
And he got shot down twice.
Wow.
And he had to escape and evade, and he got captured once and all this stuff. I'm talking to him. I said, why are we reading this book here? The Communist Manifesto. And so he says, because it's economics. There's a war on right now between Marxism or communism and capitalism. And our school system is run by Marxists. And when I read this book, I hate to say this, my family are Marxist. They say, I know this is England. Labor unions run the world. And my poor dad was the head of the teachers union for the state of Hawaii. And I'm reading this book here going, oh my God. And then he believes in taxes. And as you know, the rich don't pay taxes anyway. But my poor dad's telling you should pay your taxes. You should pay your taxes. I'm going, what? And so I came back in 1965. I was a changed human being. I said, I'm not going to listen to my school teachers anymore because they're Marxists. So what I'm saying is blasphemy. And then in 2020, I came up with this book here, Who Stole My Pension? And Jolly England made a twitch because your pensions almost went bust a little while ago. Right? When they had to pivot the interest rate stuff.
Yeah, they got a little dicey. Well, I think you famously said that communism is the only government that kills people. And so I think a lot of people, when they first hear you talking about communism and capitalism and money, they don't see how they're related, but they're highly related. And one thing the blockchain and the crypto space taught me is if you look at those Bitcoin maxis, and I don't love all the Bitcoin maxis, but I appreciate them because they say, look, if you really want freedom of speech, you have to have freedom of your money. And if we can have the freedom of the money, we can have freedom of speech. And then I had another guy named Yatsu of Animoca Brands who is big into the metaverse. And he says, if you don't own property, even your digital assets, if you don't own those, then you have no rights, which means you have no freedom of speech, which means you have nothing. So Robert, you've been saying this for a long time. It really does come down to this, doesn't it?
It does. And I wrote this book here. My latest book is called The Capitalist Manifesto.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, I'm so disturbed of what's happening in our school systems. I'll say it again. Brian Rose is a man of transformation. We work for the same thing. You just don't take a poor person and give them money. You don't take a criminal, unless I go to politics, of course. But you know what I'm saying? We've got to start transforming. And maybe let me give you an example, okay? I was at you had my friend Jim Rickards on, and he's one of the smartest guys I know.
Oh yeah, love him.
But this here is a U.S. quarter. And if you're going to study money, you have to know the history of money. So this is a 1964 quarter. The date's important because in 1964, President Johnson took the silver out of money. Okay. And so when you turn, so I was 17 years old in 1964, I remember looking at this quarter going, it's copper. How can they cheat us like this? And there's a law called Gresham's Law. And Gresham's Law states that when fake money comes into the system, good money goes into hiding. So I'm a kid, 17 years old. I'm looking at this quarter. This is fake money. And what I did, I used to go caddy, make a buck carrying golf clubs. I'd go to the bank and I'd pull out all the fake quarters with the copper, and I'd keep the real copper. And I stuff it in my bag. So by the time I went to school in New York in 65, I had a bag of real quarters and dimes and half dollars. When I came back from school and I went away, I came back in 1965. My mother had spent my quarters. And I said, then I had this blinding transformation. This is true. Poor people don't know the difference between real money and fake money. And that's why we have the problem. So I'll tell you one more story. So I'm at Safeway at the salad bar over there. I'm kind of the salad bar guru now. See, a lot of Americans know we're in trouble. They know we're in trouble. So there's the Hispanics and blacks and whites. They say, what do we do now? What's happening? So I just happened to have this little quarter here. It says 1964. I said, this here is real money. And I held up $3 like this. I said, give me $3 and I'll give you this. And these little women just went, they love me, I love them. They're serving me my coleslaw, and my chicken salad. And they're going, well, why would we give you $3 for this? I said, because this is real and this is fake. So Brian, in many ways, I was talking to my mother, you know what I mean, years later. And they go, oh, I said, okay, give me $2 and I'll give you this quarter. And their brains were mishmash. You see, what happened is our school system has taught us to work for fake money. Right. Go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, get out of debt, and invest in the stock market.